biggest strength as an event has always been... I'm gonna go on record and say that that might be the best facade I've ever seen. A great Hollywood house done right. Pure eye candy. What's up, friends and fiends? It's 6 Billiam here, all rizzed up from the Beetlejuice experience, but we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about HHN Hollywood, a serviceable and fun Halloween event that has some pretty spectacular highs, sometimes even better than its Orlando counterpart. But the lows are very, very low, and I hope we don't have to talk about those tonight. Well, HHN Hollywood might not be my favorite Halloween event overall, or even on the West Coast. It's always a good time, even despite its weaknesses. We've got an RIP tour lined up for tonight, so we're gonna grab our credentials and go from there. The Chainsaw Punks aren't out yet, but they will be soon. Insert your copyrighted Metallica lyrics about fire right here. One thing I always will give Hollywood credit for is that they use a lot more puppets and animatronics in their haunts. When Hollywood wants to get nuts, they can get absolutely nuts. So we started off the night with some, might I add, very delicious food at the RIP Lounge. Fancy water for fancy people. But house is open at 6:30, and these credentials get me express until then. So with that being said, we're gonna try and hit up A Quiet Place and Monstros 2 before this RIP tour even begins. And my expectations for A Quiet Place are sky high, so let's see how it compares to Orlando. Alright, so A Quiet Place. I don't necessarily think it was better than Orlando. Were the set pieces bigger? Absolutely. But it took on a lot more of an action type approach instead of a slow and suspenseful approach, in my opinion. It was far better than 90% of the haunts I've seen here in the last 7 years. Hollywood's biggest strength as an event has always been its actors and how much more intense they are. And it's really noticeable that they aren't utilized that heavily in A Quiet Place. Their absolute best strength is their original Latin American content, like Monstros 2, which I'm gonna go check out right now.
Tonight, you may not know my name, amigos míos.
Monstros 2 definitely better than A Quiet Place. It plays the Hollywood strengths. I got some really good scares in there. I love the use of puppets. Some of the effects were pretty cool, like El Cucuy's hands coming out from under the bed. Like I said, actors, phenomenal. Sets, incredible. Definitely better than Orlando's this year by a mile. But honestly, I hope we get one of these Monsters of Latin America houses each year because they are just so good. And John Murdy's strengths when it comes to creating those types of haunts can't be replicated anywhere else. And I mean, come on, it exits into Luchadores Monstros Zone, which, so much fun every year.
Get your tickets at the ticket booth.
Easy. Bones, bones, bones.
Yeah, Monstros 2 is a definite highlight of this year. And I'm happy to say that with 2 haunts down, I haven't seen the worst parts of Hollywood shine through yet. I do love to see my animatronics in scare zones, though. Alright, our dinner is officially over, which means our RIP tour is about to officially begin. If you were hoping for more Five Nights at Freddy's, well, too bad. This is all you get, and I think that's okay. It's Ghostbusting time. That Insidious facade in the distance is looking pretty spicy, too.
Commanding an army of ghosts. Goraka. Represented straight force.
Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, thoroughly enjoyed. Very similar to Orlando, the same scenes, but still, those Goraka costumes are just so freaking cool. I love the effects, I love the amount of scrims, and I love the monsters. It might be portrayed as a comedy house, but those quadruple scares land every single time. I'm a little bit bummed on this first run that we did miss Slimer, but hopefully next time we'll be able to see him. Overall, a lot more impressive than the 2019 house for sure. All right, it's Spooky Boy time, Insidious. There he is, my man, the lipstick demon, gonna make me pee myself.
He's coming.
difference between suspenseful darkness and empty darkness, and unfortunately when every single haunt has some type of black hallway, it loses that effectiveness, and Insidious the further suffers from that. But don't get me wrong, it's still a really good house. There are tons of scares packed throughout. I just wish that the design and the motif from the beginning with the mannequins telling the Lambert story played a little bit more of a prominent role and continued throughout, because that scenic design is creepy and cool and unlike anything that I've seen almost anywhere else. It's Terror Tram time. Bugs eaten alive.
Hi, I'm Megan. Wanna hang out? This is the part where you run. Nailed it. Bigger than new primary users. Neat. Do you know what happens to bad boys? Occupational hazard. Are you freaking kidding me?
Would you like to see a magic trick?
So far, I think this is the best Terror Tram I've seen since I've been coming since 2017. Oh boy, the best part of HHN every year. Enjoying this more gauntlet style approach to the Terror Tram. The scares are more consistent and it feels more cohesive than just kind of putting people in different places and hoping that they get you for a cheap scare.
Authentic Western experience right here on the porch. Excuse me, ma'am. Ma'am, there'll be another tour in a minute. Why don't you try your luck panning for gold while you wait, huh? It's okay, don't panic, you're fine. Excuse me, ma'am, what are you doing? Okay, folks, y'all better stop.
Not a single paintbrush touched that wall. It was done completely freehand using thousands of cans of spray paint. Very talented guy.
I love Leatherface's barbecue with Mount Beanpole right in the background. Walking to Universal Monsters is like waiting for an execution. All right, we're on the way to Universal Monsters Eternal Bloodlines in Soundstage 12, which is where they filmed all of the original Monsters movies. So I hope that it does that legacy justice. Nowhere near as bad as I thought it was going to be. For a haunt with such an action-packed narrative, it didn't feel like anything really happened.
I agree. Nothing happened. Nothing.
Black walls happened.
Yeah. Black walls.
Black walls featuring Slash, woo! Apparently this is the unpopular opinion within the group, but I actually don't think the black walls are as noticeable this year as they have been in the past. It might be Hollywood's Achilles heel, but at least this year it didn't break up the story scene. It was just long, boring transition scenes. What just frustrates me is I don't think Hollywood should have any black walls at all. This is Hollywood, Universal Hollywood. They should have the resources to be able to complete a maze front to back. All right, we're on our way to Dead Exposure, Death Valley. Will this be a Dead Exposure haunt in name only? Let's find out. Oh, gorilla. All right, Dead Exposure, Death Valley. Maybe not a Dead Exposure house in the traditional Orlando sense, but a lot of cool shit in there, like for real. Some really great puppets inside. The actors were aggressive, and there was so much misdirection and so much cool props for them to blend in with. And I really like the sense that you were actually journeying through this laboratory. You know, there's a section towards the end where you can see underground tunnels, and it doesn't feel like you're just stuck in the same location for this entire haunt. It feels like you actually went somewhere different by the end of the haunt. And that last room, oh, so good. So many potential for scares. It looks beautiful. And even though the house is bright, like very, very bright, it is still very scary, which I think that's a testament to the strength of the actors inside, as well as the concept. A great Hollywood house done right. Is everything bigger in Texas? Well, the chainsaws aren't, and you'll see why tomorrow. But let's head into Texas Chainsaw Massacre for now and see how Leatherface is doing.
Best killer there
Let's
ever
go,
was.
baby. Barbecue time. Unfortunately, we hit Texas Chainsaws, a bit of a cash change, so I didn't get the full effect, but we'll go back later, so it's all right. But I mean, sometimes you just need a good gory slaughterhouse, and Texas Chainsaw was one of the best examples I've seen of that in recent memory. Time for my first run of the night with the Weeknd Nightmare Trilogy, and we just walked by this facade on the way out of Texas Chainsaw, and not only do I think it's one of Hollywood's best, but it's one of the coolest facades I've ever seen at any Halloween event. Except Knott's. I'm glad that the Weeknd stayed a Hollywood exclusive. You know, it was weird and abstract and really cool, and I had absolutely no idea what the hell was going on, but I had an absolutely great time in it, and it seemed unified under such a singular vision, and I can't see Orlando having the same success with that concept that Hollywood did. It's a perfect house for Murdy's talents and his strengths, and I'm glad that they were able to bring that to life this year. With the exception of Universal Monsters, which still wasn't that bad, the lower lot's been cooking this year. The Weeknd, pure eye candy. It comes full circle. Now, after doing A Quiet Place again, my sentiments are definitely similar to that of Universal Monsters. There's a lot that happens, but not a lot that actually happens. Those Death Angel puppets act more as transition scares than actual set pieces. And there's no audio or visual misdirection to really make it feel like the scares can come from anywhere.
Bones, bones, bones. El Cucuy, the father of nightmares.
It feels like Orlando sucked out all the charm of Monstros this year, and Hollywood brought it back a little bit for me, which I'm glad to say. I will say the motif of having glowing red eyes for every costume is just, chef's kiss. It's so cool and so creepy. I do want to say as well that the fire code is different in California than it is in other states. So Hollywood's haunts can get away with having ceilings, fabric or otherwise, without having to add an additional fire suppression system, which is very, very expensive. And that's just another one of those little things that you might not notice at Hollywood, but it really adds a lot to these haunts. I was busting over Dead Exposure earlier, now it's back to busting ghosts. Ghostbusters is still a perfect type of HHN haunt. It manages to balance comedy and scares really well. When I see an IP haunt at Universal, I want something like Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, and I can't believe I'm saying that, but it's one of the best they've done. All right, it's time for involuntary restroom break number 2. I would almost compare HHN Hollywood to a Blumhouse film. Their event is really, really good at these strong, memorable jump scares, largely in part due to how great the actors are. But creating tension or lasting set pieces isn't always something that they're strong with, and that isn't helped by the amount of black hallways that they use. Granted, they are a lot better this year than they have been. The dark ages of 2017 were pretty bad. But as I said earlier, HHN Hollywood is basically just a jump scare bonanza, and Insidious is the best one at that. It's a little bit bit jarring to go from the level of detail of something like Ray's Occult Bookstore to the emptiness of Insidious. And again, darkness isn't bad, but it needs textures and shadows and lighting. It can't just be black paint on plywood walls.
Prepare thyselves to confront thine inevitable fate, because tonight we feast on fear.
Who's excited to see Chucky?
Filmed in front of a live studio audience at Halloween Horror Nights, welcome to Late Night with Chucky!
We're actually going to be taking questions from the audience, so without any further ado, let's get this show on the road. Kiss, marry, kill, the Nun, Annabelle, or Megan?
Well, first of all, gonna have to kill the nun, because that's sacrilegious, therefore double the kill points. And gonna kill Annabelle too, because nobody needs that rag doll. Gonna have to kill Megan too, because down with AI. Our producer is starting to annoy me, Kyle. You know what happens when I get annoyed.
No, that's a red wash! That never ends well!
It ends well for me. Thank you, dummies. It's been a pleasure talking about me. Make sure to watch Chucky streaming on Peacock.
Has this whole thing just been a promo?
You're damn right it has. This has been Late Night with Chucky. Signing off.
Okay, so maybe Late Night with Chucky is a little bit cringy, but I'm a sucker for it. If I look fat next time I do a live stream, it's because I ate my weight in these banana bread puddings in the RIP lounge. So I was talking with my buddy Josh, and he said something that actually really got me thinking.
Black walls happen.
Is HHN Hollywood a better complete package than Orlando is? And I was ready to shut him down right away and say, of course not. Hollywood is Hollywood. 3 years ago, I would have told you HHN Hollywood is the worst Halloween event in the world. But the more I think about it, the more I think he's actually got a point. But I think even with Hollywood's relative lack of scare zones, what they do have on display is really cool. And with two shows, Late Night with Chucky and Purge Dangerous Waters, that complement the HHN vibe a lot better than Nightmare Fuel does, I think he's right. I think HHN Hollywood is a more complete package than Orlando is this year. But if you're like me, where you mostly just care about the haunts, I would still say Orlando's got Hollywood beat. I've still got to say though, Dead Exposure, Death Valley, some cool shit in there. I love that haunt. I'm pretty sure the only negative thing I can say is that those zombie sound effects are reused from the Walking Dead days, because I immediately got PTSD hearing those. Let's get back to Texas and see what we missed. Stuff in Texas Chainsaw 2. I'm really digging this type of approach to an IP, where it's not a linear story, it's taking the characters and doing something wild and crazy and original with them instead of just following the story beats. You know, as a haunted house cynic, movement in haunted houses has always been something that's so important for me. There has to be more than just one moving part in every scene, otherwise it's pretty obvious where the scares and everything are going to come from. And since Hollywood has always heavily utilized animatronics, that normally hasn't been an issue, but this year it seems to be far more effective than it has in the past. Like, every single scene seems to have some type of cool effect that isn't just an actor, and I dig it. The Weeknd Nightmare Trilogy is definitely a highlight of the event. It's a neon-soaked nightmare that feels like such an LA-style haunt, and I don't think it could have been pulled off anywhere else. And I'm gonna go on record and say that that might be the best facade I've ever seen out of hundreds of haunted houses across the country. It is that good. I've gotta say, I've had so much fun at HHN Hollywood this year. And I'm man enough to admit that I'm gonna eat my words. The lows this year are nowhere near as low as I was expecting them to be, and they're nowhere near the lows of past years. Yeah, Universal Monsters is kind of a stinker in a pretty well-balanced and universally really good lineup. Normally I'm content with a one and done night at Hollywood with RIP or Unlimited Express, but tonight I'm actually kind of sad I don't think I can come back again. And if you've been around this channel for a while, first off, thank you for the support. Second off, you know that I am a slut for outdoor scenes, and Hollywood always does theirs so much better than Orlando's. This thing is gonna be nuts during HHN in 2 years. Does everyone else love seeing the eerie lights illuminate the fog at the end of the night? Because I know I sure do. And I also just want to say I love how in Hollywood's haunts, the actors are so out in the open. They aren't hidden in their boo holes. They go for 2, 3, 4 scares on the same person. It's just ruthless. As 2 a.m. draws near, I can confidently say this is the best year I've ever been to of HHN Hollywood. The 1, 2, 3 punch of Dead Exposure, Texas Chainsaw, and Monstrose, oh, out of this world. Not quite as good as Orlando's top 3 last year, but in the history of Hollywood, completely solid. If you want to see me do a more in-depth comparison between this coast and Hollywood, let me know down in the comments below. And tomorrow night I'm going to be at Knott's Scary Farm, and I'm so excited to vlog that one for the first time, so make sure you check that out as well. 6 Billion, signing off, and I hope you all enjoyed.